Hi, my name is Jessi Cushenberry, and I am so pleased to be able to talk to you guys in lieu of in-person KetoCon. But I wanted to introduce myself. A lot of you guys know me as the owner of Visionary Foods and my creation of Natola Granola. But today I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. And my background is actually in exercise science. Ever since I was young, I wanted to pursue exercise science and helping me. I figured out my passion very, very early on. So I have been training for many, many years as basically a passion project, but a career. And I was lucky enough to choose my career as my passion. And over the years, some things that I have been able to help people with is something that's a little different than what a lot of people talk about. A lot of people talk about your why, as far as why are you doing this right now? And that's usually children and family and wanting to play with your children and or get a promotion at work and be healthier. But what I want to talk about is what happened before now to get you to this point. And a lot of people have spent a lot of years spinning their wheels because they follow the prescription of the diet and the exercise, and they do that for a while, and then they yo-yo or they self-sabotage backwards. And part of that comes down to their childhood. And a lot of us have a lot of deep-seated issues that come from childhood that rear their ugly head like a dragon. Just when you think you're making progress and all of a sudden you start self-sabotaging and you don't know why you're doing it. And your brain fights itself like you have a little 2-year-old child over here nagging, but I want the candy. I want the da-da-da-da-da. I don't want to go exercise. That's not fun. I don't want to do it. But yet your logical brain is saying, I want to do this. Why are you not doing this? And so you have a fight happening inside your brain. And you have this amygdala that says survival. That is what that lizard brain is for, is purely survival. And if you have been hurt in the past or other issues, and we'll get into that a little bit deeper, that kind of little even that you wouldn't expect, little things that have added up since you were a child in your behavior now. So one of my prime examples is when I was young, my mom had evidently had a plan for this cantaloupe that stayed in the fridge for like a week. So it was a hot summer day, so I dove right into the cantaloupe. And then she got mad at me when I got home. She said, I've been saving that. And that doesn't seem like it would affect. It was really a superficial thing. But my body took that as food is bad. You need to hide your food. So I would eat in front of the refrigerator because I didn't want anyone to know that I was eating, because I associated that eating was bad. And ever since that time, it took me a lot of years to figure out why I was hoarding food. I was eating good food. I was eating keto food. I was eating low carb food, but I'd hide in the refrigerator and eat it, or the cabinet where nobody saw it. And that is a very unhealthy approach to food. And it wasn't until I started really meditating and working on myself and figured out why I had that relationship with food. So it doesn't have to be anything major. It could have been just that comment where you learn to associate food is bad. You shouldn't have it, even though it was a good food. And that's also one of the things that as you're raising children, if you're raising children, to be cognizant of how you talk to them about food. And as a mom, I have a 16 and a 12-year-old. I told them, I have a car. We have money. There is no shortage of food in our house. If you eat it all? Okay, I'll go get you more. And like I said, even a good food compared to a sugary food, never mind that it was cantaloupe and sugary, but that was a different time in the 80s. But even a good food for me was associated as bad. And food is never, ever bad. Food is fuel. And taking that emotional component out of eating will really set you up for success. So that is one of the issues that I have found with people. And there are some deeper issues that I have been able to work with people on, more than just, mom saying that don't eat my food kind of a thing. But a lot of people have gone through some very, very traumatic experiences. This is where it gets a little bit deeper, but it also, that kind of experience has even a deeper, deeper, deeper entrenched habit forming potential. And one of the ones that I have worked with myself, which I don't talk about too often, but anybody who has been abused, particularly sexually abused from either parent, family members, spouses, anybody who has had to deal with that, your brain wants to protect you from that happening anymore. And one of the things I myself had to conquer, and this is one of those, it's hard to talk about, truthfully, but your body tries to protect you from that ever happening again. So a lot of times, this was my case, your brain says we should hold on to fat because that will make us unattractive. And if we're unattractive, that won't happen again. Does that make logical sense? No, because abuse has nothing to do with you. It has to do with an emotional issue of your abuser. But still, that is going to deeply, deeply, deeply affect you. And as you try to lose weight and as you start to slim down, as you start to get healthy, your brain goes, oh no, and it panics. And you self-sabotage because it doesn't want to go back to a lean physique where you might be really, really attractive to somebody who is going to hurt you. And that is one of the things that's most important to conquer when you start any health journey. And focusing on your why going forward, again, your kids, your grandkids, everything like that, is super, super important to keep your eye on that. But I'd venture to say it's as much or potentially more to deal with the back issues first to set yourself up for future success. One of the things that I have come across in my quest to heal myself of those issues is something called EFT. It's called Emotional Freedom Technique. And what it does is it combines basically Chinese medicine and affirmations. And it basically acts like self-hypnosis in your brain. So it helps rewrite some of the patterning that you've developed over time. So there are a couple resources I would suggest. The Tapping Solution is one of them. Brad Yates is another great facilitator that you can find on YouTube. And I would highly, highly recommend, there's also a book called Tapping for Weight Loss, which does help deal with a lot of the emotional patterning that you've developed from past traumas. Another example of one of the things I was able to help somebody with, she was young, she was 6 or 7, and her father had passed away. and her mom had 3 kids. So she had to go to work many, many hours. And then her siblings were a little bit older. So one actually went to college at the same time, and everybody's working to pitch in. And so essentially in her little child mind, she lost everybody all at once. Even though her mom and her siblings were still there, they weren't there the same way. And one of the things that stayed for her was food. Food was always there for her. So in her mind, at that young age, between that age of 6 and 7, love is such a vital, vital, vital component of your psyche at that age. And without that, your body finds something that qualifies for that love. And so she would undertake a food and fasting regimen and working out and everything and self-sabotage. She'd get this 10-pound yo-yo. Every time she'd get to a certain point, she'd self-sabotage and backslide. And upon talking through it, it became obvious that food was her source of love. And from that age, her body patterned that food equaled love. So whenever she embarked on some regimen, she tried every regimen diet that there is, but because that took away food from her, that equated taking away love from her. So we did something a little bit different. We did work on the EFT, but we did some visualization. And I had her go back in her mind and basically pretend she was taking care of the child that was missing love, as if she walked up upon this child on a sidewalk, and how she would treat that child and give that child the love that she needed. And she was able to settle that inner child and accept the fact that she had love still. She still has love. And whenever she gets that self-sabotage slip, she goes back and she pictures that little child on the sidewalk and loves on her, gives her a hug and says, "You're safe, you're protected." And she's able to calmly move forward, and she dropped 10 pounds in about a week. It was fast. Once she realized where those behaviors were coming. So one of the things I wanted to emphasize with this talk is it's not always a willpower issue, which usually is a cycle, because you wonder, well, why can't I do this? Am I weak? What's wrong with me? And then that's a cycle which sets you back, because then you think ill of yourself because you're not strong enough to do these. And it's just a cycle. And you got to sit back and you have to write down everything. Literally go back, usually before the age of 7 is where a lot of these patterns develop. So go back, write a journal, write everything that comes to mind, brainstorm, even if something doesn't even make sense. You know, I had her talk to me about her family, and then it came out that the food equals love. It's not just, my example was a little more obvious, where it was definitely a food related issue that I dealt with. I'd also dealt with the abuse, but that was later in my life. But it's a lot of little things that could have happened and come up. Another thing is if kids made fun of you on a playground at one point and you internalize that somehow, and that quest for perfection started, and then you hold yourself to a standard you can never quite accomplish, and then that cycles in. So there are so many reasons why, and I hope that you're able to dig in and find some of those reasons that will give you success as well as mental peace. And it wasn't until I found my mental peace with the abuse. One of the things that happened with me is, as I was leaning down for a bodybuilding competition, this person got more and more and more attached to me and would insult me even more the closer I got to my goal. And he said, if I was the only girl in the room is why anyone would find me attractive, you know, stuff like that. And that gets deep seated when you hear that all the time and you're fighting against that, you're fighting your own success. And it wasn't until I started doing the work afterwards to really dig deep and conquer those deep-seated feelings. And really there's so much that adds up in our life that contributes to our habits. And the only way to deal with them is literally plow through the mud. We can't sugarcoat it. We can't put it in Pandora's box because it will come up and it will hold you back. And the only way to not do that is just plow through it, do the work. Again, EFT, I have found, is a fabulous solution for a lot of people. You can go on YouTube, you can search on Amazon for the tapping solution, trauma, literally anything you need to work on yourself, to better yourself, there are tapping scripts out there for. So I strongly, strongly encourage you to find those and work on those habits that hurt you in the long run to ensure your success when you get through all this. So I hope that's helped you. I hope it brings some light into something that's not really talked about. And it's not superficial. That's the problem, is it's so deep. We spend so much time on the superficial, the macros, and this much bench pressing and this many minutes of cardio, and you got to dig deeper. So that is my prayer to you, is that you are able to dig deep and find some of those issues that have held you back all this time. That's it.